I recall all the memories from those days when all meat was juicy and tender and no game too swift for a hunter. When I was young, every day was a beginning of some new thing, and every evening ended with the glow of the next day's dawn. Ivaluarachuk, Iglulik, the elder. On a midsummer day in 1806, a white fur trader named Simon Fraser, leading an expedition deep into the mountain wilderness of British Columbia, landed his birch bark canoe on the edge of a forest lake. Stepping ashore, he squeezed off a musket shot to announce his arrival. Some local people, Dekelne, they called themselves, were standing by the tree line, and though the sky was clear, they thought lightning had struck. Terrified, they dropped to the ground. Fraser coaxed them into the open with an offer of tobacco, a leaf they had not seen before. Their leader, named Qua, took a curious nibble, but quickly spat it out. It was too bitter. Fraser then lit up his pipe, causing the Dekelne to gasp in astonishment. These strangers must have come from the land of ghosts, someone said. They were blowing spirits up into the air. The confusions multiplied. Fraser offered bars of soap to the women, who took them to be cakes of bear fat and politely bit in. Foaming at the mouth, they hurried to the lake to wash out the taste. Familiar places acquired new names. The body of water where Fraser landed had always been called Nakal. Fraser decided it should henceforth be Stuart Lake, after one of his traveling companions. The river on which he traveled became the Fraser. The Dekelne themselves would soon be known to English speakers as the carriers, because widows were expected to carry leather backpacks containing the ashes of their cremated husbands. To the Dekelne, the customs of the whites were equally strange. When Fraser returned 2 years later to build a fur trading post at Stuart Lake, he celebrated its opening with a bagpipe concert. A white witch doctor picked up what appeared to be a crane, a Dekelne elder told his listeners. He put the bird over his shoulder, then he blew and made his fingers dance on the bird's bill. And what spooky sounds were made! A noise like the demons of the Muche Manitou that whistled all the way up the lake and whistled all the way back again. Everywhere it was the same, across the vast sweep of the North Country, from the cool Pacific rainforest to the muskeg swamps of Hudson Bay, and north across the tundra to the Arctic ice pack. Each new encounter between natives and whites seemed only to deepen the misunderstandings. Back in the 16th century, as English explorers sailed past Labrador, some fur-clad Inuit men had mistaken them for cannibals and jumped off cliffs to escape capture. at the western edge of the continent when Captain James Cook sailed into Nootka Sound in 1778. A squadron of 50-foot war canoes approached his ship. A shaman threw handfuls of feathers and began a long harangue. Was it a greeting? A declaration of war? It turned out to be an invitation to trade, and Cook sailed off with a hold full of sea otter pelts, an event that would alter the course of history in the Pacific Northwest. White Man, Red Man. When French explorer Jacques Cartier landed in Newfoundland in 1534, he came upon a band of hunters who called themselves Beothuk. They wear their hair tied on top of their heads like a bunch of hay, he noted. They paint themselves with a certain red color. Not only their bodies, but their caribou skin clothing, bows, and arrows. Their birch bark canoes were all smeared with a mixture of red ochre and seal fat. Ever after, whites would think of Native Americans as red men. Cartier sailed on, but others below came to trade and colonize. Relations soon turned sour, following an unwritten law of the region that a hungry man takes what he needs. The Beothuk helped themselves to food belonging to the colonists, who in turn armed the nearby Micmac with muskets. The result was a war of extermination. By the early 1800s, only a handful of Beothuks remained alive. Then 3 women were discovered, a mother and 2 daughters, all suffering from tuberculosis. The youngest, Shawanadit, was adopted by a white family who tried nursing her back to health. But in 1829, she too died, the last known Beothuk. At the time of the first encounters, the population of the North Country was at least 1/3 and possibly much more, divided among more than 50 tribal groups. The land they inhabited covered some 4 million square miles, larger than all the countries of Western Europe combined. It reached from the fog-bound Atlantic coast of Newfoundland to the windswept tip of the Aleutian Islands in the North Pacific, and from the dense evergreen forests that gird subarctic Canada up through Arctic realms of pack ice and permafrost. The region's northern tier has a stark, desolate beauty unlike anywhere else on the continent. Winter cold dips to 60 degrees below zero in some places, and winds howl relentlessly across the tundra. At higher latitudes, the December sun becomes little more than a dim ghost on the southern horizon. The twilight lasts for months on end. Yet, the same landscape enfolds pockets of natural wealth and cultural richness. Enormous herds of caribou once roamed seasonally between forest and tundra, offering a movable feast for nomadic hunters of both the interior and the Arctic North Slope. Sea mammals, whales, walruses, seals, sea lions thrived in the frigid coastal waters, along with cod, halibut, herring, and Arctic char. In the milder ocean climate of the Pacific Northwest, food was wondrously plentiful. So huge were the salmon runs in the river estuaries of British Columbia and the Alaska Panhandle that people there led lives of prodigal abundance. And cutting across the extremes of climate and terrain in the North Country were seemingly endless numbers of fur-bearing animals: marten, muskrat, wildcat, wolverine, bear, fox, mink, otter, and beaver.